Lawyers. What was the biggest plot twist you saw go down in a courtroom? It was one of those cases that, at first glance, seemed straightforward on paper, but unraveled into something completely unexpected the longer it went on. My client had been arrested for robbing a small convenience store late one night. The store didn't have a working security camera, something the owner admitted, but the police still moved forward because the store owner had picked my client out of a lineup. That identification alone carried a lot of weight for the prosecution, and without physical evidence, the case was going to live or die based on whether a jury believed the owner's testimony. From the start, my client insisted he was innocent. He didn't just say it with the defensive tone of someone trying to get out of trouble. He was adamant, almost frustrated, like he couldn't believe he was in this position at all. According to him, during the time of the robbery, he had been across the city at a bar, drinking heavily. At some point in the night, he met a woman, and the two of them went back to her place. He told me they'd stayed there until morning, drinking more, talking, and passing out in between. The problem was he couldn't remember much about her name, her phone number, or even her exact address. He was in such a fog that night that the details were gone. From a defense perspective, that was basically useless as an alibi. Without a way to identify this mystery woman, we had nothing concrete to present. It was my client's word against the store owner's identification. The prosecution's angle was simple: eyewitness testimony from the victim, no alibi from the defendant. They were confident, and to be fair, most jurors put a lot of stock in the idea of, I saw their face and that's who it was. We moved forward to trial, and I prepped my client to testify if needed. But the reality was the case wasn't going well. The store owner took the stand, clearly nervous, but unwavering. He looked directly at my client and pointed. That's him. I saw his eyes. I'd never forget his face. That sort of moment can crush a defense, and I knew the jury was paying close attention. Then came the first real crack in the routine of the trial. We were on the second day going through witness testimony when I noticed one of the bailiffs staring at my client, not in the way court officers usually do, but with a sort of puzzled recognition. She wasn't making a scene, but I could see her watching him during breaks, her brow furrowed like she was trying to place him. I filed it away as one of those odd little things you notice in court, but don't necessarily act on. It wasn't until the third day that she approached me quietly during a recess. She asked if we could speak privately for a moment. Out of earshot from everyone else, she told me she thought she knew my client. Not from the robbery, but from somewhere very different. She said they'd met a couple of months ago at a bar downtown. The description she gave of that night lined up perfectly with the story my client had told me. The same bar, the same time frame, the same sort of late-night haze that ended with her inviting him back to her apartment. I kept my reaction measured, but inside I knew this could be massive. She remembered the night well enough to know it was the exact same night as the robbery. She also confirmed they'd been together all night until morning. She still lived in the same building from that time. And here's where things got lucky. Her apartment complex had security cameras covering the entrances and lobby. The footage wasn't stored indefinitely, but the building kept a historical record for legal purposes. We moved fast. I worked with her to get the building's management to pull the footage for the date in question. Sure enough, there it was. My client walking into the building with her late at night and then leaving together the next morning. The timestamps completely overlapped with the time of the robbery on the other side of the city. We brought this new evidence to the judge. The bailiff testified under oath, explaining how she recognized my client in court, confirmed the timeline, and identified herself on the security footage with him. The footage was played in court, and it was as clear as could be. There was no possible way he could have committed the robbery. The store owner, to his credit, looked genuinely shocked. I don't believe he was maliciously lying. I think it was a case of mistaken identity that had snowballed into a full-blown prosecution. But the moment the footage was shown, the prosecution's case collapsed. The judge wasted no time in dismissing the charges. My client walked out of that courtroom a free man. It was the kind of resolution you almost never see, where a random coincidence and the right person being in the right place completely turned the tide. If that bailiff hadn't been assigned to that courtroom on those specific days, my client might have been convicted based solely on a mistaken eyewitness account. Instead, he left with his record clean, and I left with one of the most unexpected plot twists I'd ever seen in my career.